Welcome! So, in today's explainer, we're taking a really fascinating dive into a deeply thought-provoking piece of philosophical writing. We are going to unpack an essay by Xu Feng from November 2023, titled The Revelation of Not Born into a Royal Family in the Next Life. It's one of those texts that completely flips our conventional desires totally upside down, and it really asks us to reconsider what a so-called lucky life actually looks like. Let's just jump right in.
I mean, think about it. Who wouldn't want to be royalty? It's pretty much the ultimate human fantasy, isn't it? From the fairy tales we hear as kids to our modern obsession with celebrity culture, we are constantly conditioned to dream of being born into wealth, having ultimate power, and just swimming in absolute prestige. We kind of just assume that being at the very top of the social ladder is a guaranteed ticket to a life of comfort and happiness. But Xu Feng's essay challenges that universal fantasy head-on. It presents this brilliantly counterintuitive premise that forces us to look at the really dark underbelly of supreme privilege.
Let's start with Section 1, the curse of royalty. When you actually look back through history, just as the author points out, the reality of royal life is unbelievably grim. In these places of fierce power struggles, basic human bonds are just completely shredded. You have fathers and sons literally fighting to the death for power, family members brutally turning against each other, siblings torn apart. The essay asks a really piercing question. Even for the people who actually manage to take the throne, how many of them meet peaceful ends? And historically, the answer is remarkably few. Standing on the wrong side of things, or honestly just being born to the wrong parents, has dreadful consequences.
Now, this part really blew my mind. The author brings up this striking perspective on punishment. Xu Feng points out that when someone is ousted from power, it isn't just them who suffers. Everyone associated with the emperor is often massacred, the whole group. So the author argues that if a fallen royal or official is merely imprisoned or exiled, rather than facing a complete, absolute massacre of their family, their staff, and their servants, that lesser punishment is actually considered a result of past blessings. It really puts into perspective just how terrifying the baseline reality of ultimate power truly was.
Moving right along to Section 2, collateral damage and destiny.
The tragedy of power absolutely isn't confined to the elite. The essay broadens its lens to look at the collateral damage of these struggles. It points out how joining any powerful group, whether that's a political party, a religious sect, or even a crime syndicate, can lead to inevitable imprisonment or way worse if that group happens to fall from grace. But it's the soldiers fighting these wars that the author humanizes so profoundly. Throughout history, soldiers shed blood on both sides, but who are they really? They're the beloved children of mothers, the cherished husbands of wives, the respected fathers of children. The author poses this haunting rhetorical question: why do they engage in mutual slaughter? It perfectly highlights the tragic absurdity of common, everyday people dying for the power struggles of the elite.
And this leads into a super fascinating metaphysical concept in the essay, the idea of collective destiny. Xu Feng shares this remarkable tale about a shipwreck. There's a criminal on a sinking ship complaining to the greatest creator, essentially asking, "Why did you have to drown over 200 people just to punish me?" And a distant voice from the heavens responds, "It wasn't an easy task to gather over 200 people who were destined to perish, was it?" Wow, it introduces this incredible idea that massive tragedy isn't just random chaos, but perhaps a synchronized gathering of individual destinies.
This completely reframes the sheer scale of the tragedies we see in the world. Whether it's an earthquake wiping out tens to hundreds of thousands of people in an instant, a flood separating the living from the dead in a village in mere moments, or an airplane crash where hundreds just vanish without a trace instantly. The author uses these massive, sudden events to build upon that concept of unavoidable collective fate. It kind of forces us to confront exactly how fragile life is in the face of nature and destiny, entirely stripping away that illusion of control that power and wealth are always trying to sell us.
So, how does the author sum up the underlying force behind all these sudden, massive tragedies? With three simple, extremely powerful words: timing, luck, destiny. It's a very humbling reminder that, regardless of our status or how much power we think we have, we are all ultimately subject to forces vastly larger than ourselves.
Let's unpack this further in Section 3, Beneath the Surface Glamour. Here, the author systematically peels back the layers of what society tells us we should covet. We can call these the 6 illusions. On the surface, we all want power, wealth, pleasure, beauty, fame, and excitement, right? But beneath the surface lies a drastically different hidden reality. Beneath power lurk invisible dangers and violence. Beneath the glimmer of wealth is endless servility and misery. pleasure hides lurking crises. Beauty masks endless bitterness, endurance, and looming danger. Fame is built on indescribable impurities and corruption. And excitement? It just covers up countless disasters and despair. It is such a brilliant deconstruction of human ambition, really showing how surface honors constantly mask deep underlying peril. Because of all that, we get this incredibly blunt warning from the author. Based on these hidden realities, Xuefeng gives us very direct life advice. Do not be misled by surface glamour. Do not walk towards power, status, wealth, fame, beauty, or excitement. It's a stark message. The text argues that pursuing these things doesn't just risk sadness, it inevitably guarantees strife and misfortune. It's a trap, plain and simple.
So, if we aren't supposed to chase what society tells us to chase, what exactly are we supposed to do? That brings us to Section 4, the movement of Tao.
The absolute philosophical climax of the essay hinges on this one profound definition. The reverse is the movement of Tao. The author is prescribing a totally alternative path to navigate human existence. Think about it. If the normal human trajectory is to fight your way into the crowded centers of power, wealth, and fame, the Tao, the natural order of the universe, moves in the exact opposite direction.
To really wrap our heads around what the author is advocating, let's contrast the two paths before us. On one hand, you have the path of glamour, the power, the wealth, the fame, the excitement we've been discussing, which the text firmly links to destruction. Contrasted against this is what Xuefeng calls the path of nature. He advises us to walk towards places where crowds are sparse, to seek simplicity, tranquility, joy, and freedom. That is where you find actual bliss. You have to literally walk away from the crowd to find your peace.
Now you might be wondering, is this all just about spiritual enlightenment? Well, yeah, partly, but it's also incredibly practical. The author explicitly states that by following this simpler, natural path, by staying out of those fierce arenas of power and greed, you actively minimize disasters and unexpected blows. You're basically taking a huge step back from the blast radius of human ambition. You can't control destiny entirely, of course, but you absolutely can choose not to stand in the crossfire.
Which brings us full circle right back to the beginning and to the very last line of Xuefeng's essay. Knowing what we now know about the curse of royalty, the hidden dangers of wealth and fame, and the peaceful safety of taking the reverse path, the author leaves us with this incredible provocative question. So where do you intend to be born in the next life? It's a question that asks us to totally reevaluate what a good life truly is. As we wrap up today's explainer, I'll leave you with that exact thought to reflect on for your own pursuits. Thanks for joining me.